Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria. This is my best friend and co-host, Miosha. And today we have a very special guest in the building. We have MAFS with us, and we will be reviewing Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 9.
Yes.
Yeah. But before we get into that, please make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button. It is absolutely free and it helps build up our channel. So please go ahead and do that right now. All right, let's jump in to, we'll start with Steve and Noyes since they didn't have as much as the other couples. So MAFS, since this is your first time here, general thoughts on Steve and Noyes and how you felt like they did this episode.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say how excited I am to be here with you all. I love this show. I know there's a ton of people in the world who are following it, but it seems like I'm like introducing this show to people all the time. They're like, what? I've never even heard of this. And I was like, it's the best television on right now. So we talked about it in my class on Tuesday night. So anyway, I'm super excited to be here. Steve and Noyes. So here's the thing about Steve and Noyes. The past 2 weeks, I think, my opinion of Steve has completely changed. So I started off very much Team Noyes. And then the incident happened a couple weeks ago where she got mad over the dinner and she grabbed her sushi and off she went. And she threw a high school temper tantrum and just, decided to very passive aggressively post, she like subtweeted him. And so I really, really didn't like that. And so it forced me to kind of dig deeper on how I feel Steve is being presented to us, right? And so I think the show is really working hard to kind of give us this sense of, oh, well, this, he's basically a bum. He's just out here trying to live in a tent on the beach kind of thing. He don't have no job, right? Like Tommy, basically.
Yeah.
And he said something when he was describing with, by the way, the patience of a saint, when he was describing what went down with their fight, right? He was explaining it. And I was like, oh, I get it. This guy probably has racks on racks in the bank. He probably made a crap ton of money doing whatever it is he does. I don't have any idea what that is. Like, what is your job? What was your job? I don't know what that stuff means. So he probably has a ton of money. And this lifestyle that he's been living allows him to not have to spend any of what he probably has saved. So I'm like, okay. So Steve is like, stop stressing out. Yeah. I got you. I got us. Like, we're good. Like, stop. Yeah. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, I completely get Steve now. Like, I get him. And my opinion of Noyes went down a little bit because of her little tantrum. So in this episode, she basically sends him on this like scavenger hunt, which was adorable.
So cute.
I thought it was very cute. And so she basically was like, okay, I don't know if it means that she's starting to get it. Like she's starting to understand him the way I now understand him. But so I feel like she's starting to get it. And so she's like, okay, all he has been saying is, I like adventure. So she was like, let me give you a little bit of adventure. And boom, what happens? Steve's in love.
I know.
He's now officially in love. So there we go. These two wacky kids.
I know. I love them. I do think Noyes has a little bit of growing up to do, but I think Steve is just the perfect like match for that. I think he's very patient. He's very calm. Maybe because he's a little bit older. I don't know. He's 38, but he's short enough, and he can handle that. But I did love her scavenger hunt. I want to do a scavenger hunt now for somebody.
It's harder than it looks. I've attempted one before.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, if they miss one, then it's like, oh boy.
Right.
Uh-oh.
I know. But Miosha, did you have something to say about these two?
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Samaria. I do think that Noy does still have some maturing to do. One thing I wanted to touch on was her, I guess, being taken back by the fact that he's been in love, he said 5 times. And, you know, it was almost like she was like, I don't know if I should be feeling some type of way about this. But then when he described what he needed in terms of being in love, I'm like, okay, yeah, that may make sense. He may have been in love, but he didn't marry any of them. He's not divorced. So right. I don't know. I kind of felt like she may have been reading into that just a little bit, but I could understand she's probably thinking, okay, if you've been in love that many times, then why is it such a hold up for you to say those words to me? Like, what have these other girls gotten from you or have done that I'm not doing to get those words? But this process is completely different than the traditional dating process. So it's like, okay, Noah, you can't compare yourself to those other women because, like he said, we're already married.
Right. And so I will add what those other women had that she doesn't was time. Like it's been 3 weeks at this point. Like at 3 days, I understand, Noah, you were ready to say you loved him. But for the rest of us, that's just way too soon. I'm sorry. But I do think he was so sweet when he said that he loved her. So he's like, oh, on day 3, you said this. So now that it's week 3, like perfectly executed. I really like Steve a whole lot. So yeah, he just needs to let us know that he has a lot of so that we can all be comfortable.
He needs to confirm it with, some statements.
Right.
Something.
Exactly. But he's, you know what? He just has that very calm demeanor.
Yeah.
So it may just not even occur to him that that's something that he should do. But then but he is paying attention to Noy. He's listening to her. He is doing a better job of trying to understand her than I think she has done of trying to understand him. And again, I think that could just be related to her growing up that she needs to do just a little bit.
Yeah, she's 33, but she's like a young 33.
Yeah.
Very, very young. Okay, so of course, like before then, when they met up with the girls to do the nails, she said, oh, when he expressed, how he felt, his voice cracked. And I'm like, he loved me. He hasn't said it. So I'm glad that she felt that before he said it. Because I think he needed some type of confirmation that he was in on this with her. So that's all I have for Steve and Noy. I hope they make it. I like them a lot.
I like them a lot. Yeah. Okay. I hope they make it.
Yes.
Rooting for them.
Crossed. Okay, so next I guess we'll go to, did we say Jasmina and Michael?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. MAFS.
Oh boy.
Our problem children.
They're now our problem children with the elimination of Alyssa and Chris.
Exactly.
So now Jasmina and Michael, although actually, no, I think the bigger problem, we're going to talk about someone else later, but I feel like the other 3 couples are really, really in danger now. We've entered that part of the process where it's like, it could be bad. But okay, so Jasmina and Michael, I've been pretty solidly team Michael throughout this whole thing.
Same.
And so now it's the last couple of weeks, I've been like, what is going on with Jasmina? So just again, to kind of back up just a little bit, when on their first night in the apartment, when she was like, okay, so I need to go home and I'm going to take care of my dog or whatever, which was a lie, which she admitted that was a lie. Right then I was like, this is not a good starting point. This is not a great way to start your cohabitation. But that was the moment that I was like, even before then I had some red flags, but in that moment I was like, this is really bad. This is actually not good at all. But she put her rationale for that on the dog. So when Michael comes around and he's like, okay, boom, I'm about to do this really sweet thing for her that I know she's going to appreciate. And he focuses it on the dog. I was like, again, just like Steve, I was like, he's paying attention, he's got it, but he's doing all of this that, I mean, I think Feeney is important to her, but like,
Mhm.
you know, he's coming in at a 12 and
Yeah.
she's probably like 9.5, you know?
Mhm.
So I thought that was so sweet of him. I felt like he was really trying, but it didn't go great because of Jasmina, right? Because she started this. You know what? This season should have a colon. So it should be Married at First Sight, season 14, colon, gaslighting. Because
Oh,
like in every single couple, we've got these moments of like,
Yeah.
what
is it
reality are we?
right? Like, am I bugging? I'm the one? Because what? So this is when she says to him, you know, he's literally putting himself out there and he's saying, okay, I want you to help me. Like, I don't understand
Yeah.
what it is. And again, she has a PhD in communication studies, right? So I can tell you that he gets a thumbs up as far as how we see him communicating with her and attempting to communicate with her. And so he's saying, listen, you know, where I come from, this is fine. And so I'm asking you, how am I supposed to communicate with you? And this is like, look up gaslighting in the dictionary, and it's a picture of Jasmina, arms folded, right? She gives me very arms folded energy. Even if her arms are not folded, I'm like, mentally, she's folding her arms. So he's she says, he says, how am I supposed to have a conversation with you?
Mhm.
And she's like, just talk to me, don't talk at me. But in doing so, she's talking at him. Like he's a kindergartner.
So
She's like,
condescending.
right, so condescending. He's like, I don't know what that means. And she's like, how do you not know how to have a conversation? And he's like, I don't understand. And then she commits the two things that combined represent, if you want to see me go from 0 to completely ballistic, you can either tell me to calm down or relax. And you can be guaranteed that I will do neither. And in fact, I will do the exact opposite. So she's like, calm down. And I'm screaming at the TV. I was like, you calm down. Like, you're the one freaking out.
He was so chill.
That's
was
the thing. Like he doesn't have like the maturity that say a Steve has, but he's really trying. Like he's like 28. And so even him explaining to her, like, okay, well, where I come from, this type of communication is okay. So you have to instruct me on how I should speak to you.
Right.
Even him taking the time to explain that, I'm like, you're giving her way more than most people would have.
More than I would.
Exactly. So I think he really is trying, and I just hate this for him because of the arms folded energy.
Yeah. How about you meet him in the middle, right? So he's saying, like, here's my family situation, and this is what we do. I understand that you come from a different kind of format.
Yes.
Why don't you like meet me in the middle, or at least recognize that I'm not trying to like offend you, but that's what I grew up with. That's how we operate.
I'm gonna go out on the limb and say that the vibe I was getting is that she don't want him to know how to communicate with him or how to communicate with her. She doesn't want him to know, because in that moment, if she did, she would have just said, she wouldn't have tried to make him seem like he's stupid for not knowing.
Right.
She would have just said it and moved on. So I'm feeling like she don't want him to know. That's why she said it.
You know, it's interesting because this keeps coming up. So I feel like Michael, he's trying to clear his name regarding what happened on the honeymoon, because he's like, okay, we were both talking to each other in the tone, like, and I feel like he's consistently trying to clear his name, because she really made it look like he was just being, I mean, I was confused. I'm like, oh, if he was talking to her aggressively, then there's no way Team Michael. Right. So now seeing that it's maybe just the tone, like he's talking passionately. And he even said that, like, I'm a human, I'm gonna show emotions, but I would yell at you. And so it's like, I'm pretty much Team Michael at this point.
Yeah.
She didn't even want him to be annoyed.
Right?
It just shows
like,
that
you're annoyed, and he's like, yeah.
Like, you don't even want him to show
robot.
Different types of emotions. And I will say that this is the second time. So the first time was with Pastor Cal. This is the second time, in my opinion, where Michael has been calmer and more open than she has been in this back and forth conversation. And the way she's like, no, watch her, like her energy is aggressive, but not like yelling. She seems more aggressive than he is.
I agree.
And he just has this look of bewilderment, like.
I agree. You know what it is? It's like that Spider-Man meme where all of the Spider-Men are like pointing at each other. That's what this is. It feels like, wait, who's being aggressive? Like, who has a tone?
Yes.
It's you? It's me? I don't. Yeah. I feel like she is, I think, like y'all have said before, that she just doesn't like him. And so now, and I think the previews confirmed that.
Yes.
Like, so yikes. Y'all can talk about that next week. I'm out on that one. But yeah, so she just doesn't like him. And so now she is just finding any little thing, you know, and she's setting him up, and he, poor thing, he just keeps falling into the trap, you know?
Yeah.
But also they are getting, neither one of them is getting a very good edit, because like you said, like the audience is very confused. So it's either, there's only really two scenarios here. It's either he is complete Jekyll and hiding her, where, you know, it's what Lindsay is accusing Mark of being one way on camera and another way off. And so when he's on camera, he's all cool and calm and even. And then when he's off camera, he's like, "Rawr," and attacking her. So it's either that, or she's completely delusional. And what she's, in her mind, she's got that Alyssa syndrome. And I mean, they were cool. So maybe, you know, there's a little bit of that going on with both of them. But she's like, I don't like that tone that you're taking with me. Meanwhile, his tone, he could not have been more even. And she's like, I don't like that tone. And he's like,
what tone?
I literally don't know how to do it any better than I just did.
You know what else came up that I don't know how I feel about this. So their conversation later on flowed better. I like them when they're having fun. You know, I like when there's some like levity to the conversation. Yeah. I'm not sure about how I feel about her trying to go so deep into his trauma, especially when she's not going into hers.
She's completely closed off.
Yeah,
I'm not here for it.
She's like too vulnerable, and she's not. Even I'm glad she like touched him and moved in, because during the honeymoon when he like revealed something and she was like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry." Like, goodness, so she's
like, "Oh no!"
Right, drinking her drink exactly.
Hey.
So she's learned, she's gotten a little bit better, but I just was not comfortable with her pushing him to that point. And I don't think it had the payoff that, I don't think it'll have the payoff that it needs to have. Like, she's not going to see that and say, okay, I know he's all in because he was so vulnerable with me.
Right.
She's going to find the next thing that's wrong.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh yeah. And I feel like in moments like that, unless they caught it off camera, it just, to me, vulnerability needs to be balanced in situations like this, especially where y'all don't really know each other. And he's been talking about vulnerability, and he's been vulnerable with her by sharing different parts about his past, you know, and her actually kind of holding it against him.
Right.
So he's been open and vulnerable. So it's just like, okay, he's being open and vulnerable again. And instead of her saying, well, you know, a part of my childhood, or this is something that I've went through, you know, being abandoned by my parents.
Right.
Like, girl, you have stuff that you could have offered up to in that moment,
right?
Other than you like patting his face with the even with
Woo, woo, woo.
Like in that moment, I said, okay, she's trying, but it's still not giving what it needs to give.
Yeah.
The concern felt a bit forced and fake.
Totally forced.
Yeah.
Like
exactly
socially awkward. Socially awkward. Like, oh, I got to do something because we're like sitting here with our legs open and all whatever.
We're all exposed.
But it still didn't feel genuine.
Yeah.
And because she didn't offer up like, hey, this is something about my childhood or any type of vulnerability on her part, it felt even more forced and fake.
Agreed.
I think the funniest part about them was, I don't know, I think she was talking with the girls and she was like, I don't know what's stopping him from having vulnerable conversations. I was like, now Jasmina.
I do. I know.
Come on. Somebody bring a mirror because she needs
watch the show. Play it back for her. She needs to see the dailies.
See herself.
What did she say? She's hopeful that her energy will say otherwise, I guess, going forward. Really? Do you? Mm-mm. Even the way she was sitting up there looking while the other, and I don't know if it was the editing.
When Katina was speaking.
Please say
what
it.
is going on with her?
I was like, does she know something that we don't know? Because she was like, it was the stankiest.
It was the stank.
It was like, I think it was because Katina was talking about like changing into what Olajuwon wants her to be. So either she's against her changing for Olajuwon because she knows something about him.
That
agreed. Or she's just against changing for a spouse.
Or she's agreed.
Yes.
Or she's just sour.
Yeah.
All three could be true.
That's right.
Yes, all of the above. That's all I had on them. I think we can move on to Lindsay and Mark.
Okay, before you go, MFOS, I just want to level set and get y'all's opinion on, do you think that the scenes are picking up within a day of the bowling incident? A week late?
I would need some time. After that.
Because
that
was the time
as well, like
the time is confusing me.
That wasn't yesterday. No, it was not, because we need some time.
Maybe 2 days.
Right. Maybe 2, maybe a week.
Right.
Yeah.
But the way they edited it, I'm just like, okay, this okay.
I mean, so Lindsay's breakdown, essentially, in the bowling bathroom.
Yeah.
I mean, that did sound and feel to me very like alcohol fueled, you know, like that didn't feel like a sober meltdown. It felt very alcohol fueled to me. But Mark felt sober to me.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like the two of them, both of them, needed significantly more time than just like, hello, the next day, sun rises, da, 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 and everything's forgiven. But it was super icy in the very beginning. So that was the only thing that made me feel like, okay, like it could be the next day, because Lindsay was like, I don't want. So in the first time when we see Mark and Lindsay in this episode, I was crying because I was laughing so hard. Not that it was like, haha, look at their marriage. But I am very entertained by this couple. They are just entertaining humans to me. But I was mostly laughing because of the production of it. So, I mean, if you pay attention, so part of, what I do professionally and what I teach is like media aesthetics. So paying attention to things like camera angles and sound and editing and, lighting, etc. And in this particular scene, when they're sitting, sorry.
I'm like, I want to know.
I'm sorry. sorry. The payoff is not gonna be equal to my reaction, but it's like that joke that's only funny to you. So when they're sitting at the table, they're eating their dinner and it's like silent, except for the clinking of their silverware on the plate.
Yes.
And it goes on for like an eternity. And it's just like clinkety clink, clink. So how was your day? Clink, clink, clink. Fine. Clink, 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 clink. So what about so do you like that? Clink, clink, clink. No. And so the absence of any music behind them. Listen, Married at First Sight never met a moment that they couldn't soundtrack. There is constantly music playing
too much
throughout the entire thing. Too much. Yeah, I agree. But the silence in that moment was insane to me. So I loved that. It was just chef's kiss. I was like, production, mwah, love. And then when she tried to pour the empty can, like, oh, I have been there. I have been there in an argument where you're like, oh yeah, well, I'm just gonna pour myself more LaCroix and there's none in there and that's fine. And I'm just gonna set it down and that's so anyway, so Lindsay, I think part of her issue, I'm crying. Part of her issue is that she has committed to this whole thing of like, once you've done, she's like Celie, like, everything you've done to me, I've already done to you. So she has committed to this whole, like, if I back off, I've backed off. And I don't think she feels like that. I think she feels like she wants to come in, but she said that and she said it on camera and she put it out there. So now she has to commit to it. And so Mark was like, bless Mark's heart, but he was just like, okay. So, he's trying to navigate her. So their first thing was a tough one. It was a tough one for them.
Well, what got me was her expecting him to apologize first.
I literally wrote that she wanted an apology.
Like,
because she maybe thinks that he doesn't know about the bowling alley.
And I mentioned that to Samaria on the last episode. I said, are we sure that he heard how everything went down? And Samaria said, well, she was loud enough. And I'm like, I think because the mics were on for her.
Yeah.
But the fact that she was expecting an apology from him first, and I had to think back to the bowling alley about, okay, well, what exactly did Mark do? He basically said, hey, don't pick fights with people out in public because I don't want to have to defend you every single time.
How dare he?
He didn't call her out of her name. He didn't do anything super crazy.
Nope.
And so it's like, dang, girl, you're expecting an apology from him first.
Yeah.
Even though you showed your whole behind in the bathroom.
Right.
What am I missing? Did he do something else?
Yeah. It just literally the only thing that he's done to her. It
feels like she's delusional. Like, did she, and maybe you're right. Maybe it was alcohol induced because maybe she doesn't remember everything that she was saying.
Maybe.
So, that is a good point about the alcohol. Maybe she just doesn't even remember it. But her expecting an apology first, that just triggered me for the rest of their whole scene. I couldn't get past it.
No. The funniest thing to me, and I think she's a little bit right. So she wants him to admit that his life is in shambles. And he refuses to see that. So she's like, oh, he's just so right. She's like, he's just so unaware, like your life is in shambles or whatever she said. And I'm like, I cannot believe she's calling anybody else unaware because she literally has no clue. Like when they're at the bowling alley, she's like, poop spray. It's like, okay, they heard you. Like the joke was not funny, okay?
Oh my God. Hashtag poop spray.
Right. Yeah, she's the most unaware person I think this show has had, at least since I've been watching it. So I couldn't believe
except for Alyssa.
Right, except for
who feels like she's on a completely different show.
Oh my gosh, I do not understand her. But yeah, that's what tripped me out about Lindsay. But I will say, Mark is really trying when he doesn't need to. Like he's like, to sit there and say, "I think you are great." I think he even apologized to her, and I'm like,
did at sushi.
He's really forcing it, you know? Like,
yeah,
they're obviously not going to work, but I think maybe he just has the sense that, well, I have to manage this until the end. So maybe that's why he's doing it, because there's no way that I would apologize to her for her overreacting.
No.
But you bring up that his life is in shambles. And, you know, I believe that it very well could be, because I'm still feeling like that whole bed bug situation is a bigger issue than what he put it on to be, and that he really doesn't have a home to go to after the fact, as of, you know, when this was filmed. And so, I mean, all that aside though, just because you help a person, you're showing up for them, that doesn't give you free reign to control them and talk to them any type of way. That doesn't make you above reproach. Like, it's almost like she feels like, oh, well, I wrote this helper check, and then that means I can cash out in any situation, and you're going to be ride or die loyal, even if it's at your own detriment. So I understand what she's saying, that, hey, I've really shown up for you, but it's like, okay, well, you can't continue to use that as a reason as to why he can't criticize you. And if y'all notice, that entire first half of the scene, until she met with the girls, she never admitted any fault or like anything that she could have done differently or that she should change. It wasn't until she was with the other girls where she was like, yeah, well, I have my flaws, he has his flaws. It's like, okay, well, why don't you communicate that when you're in front of him? When you're when you're with him, you're like, like it's war.
The helper.
And you're not backing
she wants
down.
Credit. She wants credit. So it's like, it's performative, Lindsay. That's not why you help somebody, so that they can be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Like, that shouldn't be why you do this, which makes me question you even more professionally, like all the things, right? So if the only reason why you're doing this is so you can get recognition for it, then it's not coming from the right place, you know? Did y'all watch the after party?
No, I haven't seen the after party. Okay. She was on there again.
Right. It's like,
she's been on there a lot.
And meanwhile, I'm like, please let it be Alyssa, because I just want to watch her walk off again. But yeah, she was. And so when they played the scene over sushi, they played like the sushi scene, she actually started crying. And so I feel like that's a soft spot for her. She feels like, I want to do this stuff, but I also want to be recognized for all that I do. But it's kind of like there is a sweet spot where where is the line between help and control? And she is leapfrogging over that line through her whole life. She doesn't understand the difference between I'm helping you and I'm trying to control you.
Yes. You know, the problem with Lindsay is she wants to tell people what help they need from her. So like, if you ask Mark about her being there in the hazmat suit, he might say something like, okay, she was more so in the way than helping. But to her, she's like, oh, this is what he needs. And you can't tell this man what he needs. Like, you have to be able to listen to what he communicates as his needs in that moment. And if you want to fulfill them, great. Right. You can't determine what his needs are and then meet
them. Try to throw away the man's baseballs. What are you doing?
Right.
Like that's the one thing that he loves. That's his one thing. And you're like, but does it spark joy? Yes. Yes, it does.
Oh, and then it seems like he wants all this affirmation, but then it's like, you don't want to take accountability for anything that you're doing. Right. So it's almost like you want affirmation regardless of everything. And it's like, no, girl, you got to find that balance.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What did y'all think about the whole scene where I guess they were talking about being in love?
Yes.
And how well, let me take a step back. Yeah. The sushi scene, it was cute, but it was giving me controlling vibes.
Again.
And I wasn't here for it.
Yeah.
This man don't want to eat sushi like that. Let him be.
He said, send it back to the ocean.
It was kind of a
thing in the camera.
Like, and God bless him. He really went along to get along because he didn't want to push back too much. But that's one of my pet peeves, people trying to force me to eat things that I don't want. It's invasive. Yeah. I'm sorry. It is invasive. So skipping ahead of that, what did y'all think about basically her saying, like, chastising him for how he maybe will circle back on relationships, or basically whatever his response was? She was just like, oh, well, I would never do that.
For me.
Right. Nobody asked you.
I don't recycle men.
They don't recycle you, Lindsay. I'm pretty sure none of the men would ever want to come back to you. So you don't have a choice.
That's revisionist history, Lindsay.
Exactly. But yeah, I didn't like how she was talking to him. I feel like she was talking down on him. I'm like, okay, we get it. You wouldn't do it. That's why he's telling you what he has done. And that can be Mark's story. You don't have to put too much Lindsay on it. Like, it's okay. So I didn't like that at all.
Yeah,
I didn't either. And I felt like she has been complaining this whole time about him not opening up to her and being, receptive to all this love that she's trying to give him. And so in that moment, I felt like he was very open with her and very vulnerable and talking about his actual emotions, like where he really is coming from. And she was like, well, that's actually a problem for me. Okay, well, I didn't understand that this was a jury trial.
Right.
And that, and that you're the judge. Like, we're not talking about you right now. We're talking about me. You said your thing, and then I'm saying my thing. And the appropriate thing would be to say, okay, well, we're different on that.
Yes.
Yeah. But she feels this need to be like, no, my way is the right way. You have to see it like I see it, or else you're flawed. And listen, I'm a Virgo, so I get that. Like, I get that energy, but no, ma'am, you got to pick your battles. And that was the wrong time to try to fight.
It reminds me of so this was the New Orleans season, and there was this flight attendant, I know, but there's this like flight attendant on there who was pretty much homeless. Like, we all knew, like, when it came time for her to like take him to her place, she's like, oh, I have like a storage unit here. But there was one point where she's like, oh, I need him to open up and be more vulnerable. And so he says to her, because of some things that happened in my childhood, I can be somewhat insecure and I need somebody to just like, reassure me. And literally after he like spills his guts, she's like, yeah, it's a turn off for me when a man isn't super confident. Like, it's a turn off when a man is insecure. And it's like, he literally just said he's insecure. Like, what made you think this was the time to say that?
Right.
So yeah, that's what Lindsay reminded me of.
Yeah. Poor Mark.
I know.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, even aside from her controlling ways and his life being in shambles. So she says, I don't know that they're gonna make it. I don't think that they are, just based off of her, whether it's alcohol fueled or not, her the way that she argues, she hits way below the belt. Her dad called it out, the friends called it out. I don't know really any man who's not going to be weighed down by that.
Yeah.
And Mark doesn't seem like the type to try to hit lower and lower.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just not getting that vibe from him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm not seeing this.
Yeah, I'm not feeling optimistic about their chances.
I don't want them to work, honestly. Like, the worst Mark said all season was, go have another drink. Like, Well, that was his big insult. I'm like, whoa.
His big insult. Oh, hey, Mark. Oh,
right.
She
Mark
probably
did the
did.
chat.
She probably did. Yeah. So yeah,
Well done,
I wouldn't be her friend. I wouldn't be.
No, I'm good.
People
I'm good
on Twitter were like, there might be something there with that and like her relationship with her mom, because it is too much. I'm like, okay, Twitter people, like, let's not do this. But yeah, it's yeah, she's too much.
Yeah.
On to Katina and Olajuwon.
Ooh, we.
I have a lot of notes on them actually.
Samesies.
Goodness. He came out the gate. Yeah.
Well, he is somebody who has been coming out of the gate. Yes. He's been coming out of the gate. It might have been like he put a foot out and then his whole leg, and now he's just out. He is just out. I feel like the second he cut his hair, he was like, now I am free to just completely show out. No. And the thing that makes me so frustrated, oh my gosh, I have a lot about these two. The thing that makes me so frustrated is how much I like Katina. Like she's my favorite of all the girls.
Yes.
But I feel like she should feel as robbed as Alyssa was claiming to be. Because she is someone who we learned, I feel like we knew this before, but we learned for sure this week that her previous relationship, she was verbally abused.
Yes.
And they paired her with someone who is a caveman.
And very aggressive. Persistent.
Very aggressive, has been that way toward her from the wedding. He began on day 1, minute 1, like on her, right? And trying to kind of control her and mold her into what he wanted. And that is traumatic for her. And so the fact that they put her into that kind of situation, y'all knew that's who he was. You knew he was a caveman. Pastor Cal as much as said, hey, wait, are you like a barefoot and pregnant and cooking
right
kind of dude? And he was like, no. But when Olajuwon started saying no, everybody, all of us in the audience were like, yes, like yes, you exactly. Clearly are that dude. And so this thing about the cooking makes me personally so triggered and so furious for her, because this is exactly what I wrote in my notes, and I'm jumping all over the place, but sorry. So here's what I wrote in my notes. He the end, and when they're at the table after they're cooking, he says standards have to be met. Yes. And my notes say no. No. So he's saying, this is what I wrote. So he's saying, I can't love you if you don't clean and cook for me. Right. Like, I don't love you if you don't clean and cook. My husband is an amazing chef and an amazing baker. If he never cooked another thing, would I miss it? Hell yes. Would I love him less? Hell no. Yeah. Like, because that's not what love is about. Like, do I think that's awesome that he does that? 100%, right? Would I starve if he was like, I'm not cooking anymore? No.
Figure it out.
Would Katina starve? You know what I mean? Like, would Olajuwon starve if Katina was like, I'm not cooking? No. You fed yourself before Katina, didn't you? So why can't you feed yourself now? That should not be the reason for loving someone. Like, that's a cool thing about them. But if you're like, I can't love you if you don't X, Y, and Z, that means I don't love you.
It's giving, when I get married, I now have a free personal chef.
Yes.
Ew.
That costs money for everybody else.
And maid.
I didn't get it. Like at the beginning, was he saying that he wanted to do chores together? I feel like some of the things that he wants, maybe if he just communicated them better. So,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I'd like the dishes done before I don't want dishes in the sink. Okay, that's a fair thing to say. But
That
you
is fair.
don't go and like drag your wife because she decided to go to sleep and you had to do the cleaning. Like,
And it's unrealistic in a marriage because there will be nights when he's dog tired,
Right.
and she's like, you know what, babe, I got it, whatever. Especially once you have kids, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get the kids to bed, I'm gonna do the
Right.
dishes, whatever, because you see
Right.
that they've had a day. And
Right.
then the vice versa will happen. So
Right.
it's never gonna be all split down the middle, 50-50, 100, whatever. You just have to like jump in. Now, I understand what he was saying, that like, hey, sometimes it is about teamwork. That's separate than you having all these expectations for her, because it sounds like she's supposed to have all these types of skills in order to be labeled as a woman or a wife.
Or an adult.
Or an adult. He took it even further.
Ooh.
But yet he, like, that expectation isn't there for him. And I haven't seen where he said like, well, I'm a good cook and I'll teach you. Or I can clean really well and I'll show you. He hasn't right. He hasn't, the easiest meal of the day. He hasn't presented it like, hey, I do these things really well, so I expect the other person to. And even that's not realistic. I don't think that he should, but it's like the audacity of you.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Like,
that's the perfect word, audacity. Like, you don't know everything.
And I think he thinks he does. Like that's how he's like, I got myself together. I guess paid off student loans. I have a house. First of all, your kitchen is ugly. You have brown everything.
Whose grandma came and decorated your kitchen?
He has brown cabinets.
Whose great grandma?
Like a brown island, brown floors, brown.
Why is your kitchen brown? It is not 1972. Excuse me.
You know what I was thinking about too?
And he said he liked those curtains, by the way.
Right.
He said he liked them. Okay.
I was thinking about just like his family structure and upbringing, because I'm trying to understand, where did you get all this knowledge about what a woman is, what an adult is, what a wife is? It's my understanding that your mom was a single mom who raised you and your brothers or siblings, and like your coaches and, you know, the other men around you like stepped up as like that father figure for you. So it's not even like maybe you come from that dynamic directly. Maybe you saw it from afar. Maybe these are ideas that you've came up with that maybe someone ran by you, but I don't know. It's like, even if someone gave you the advice that that's how things should go, it shows his level of maturity and not being able to understand, like, okay, it's one thing for someone to guide you or tell you this, but then when you actually get in a marriage, things have to be adjusted and things will be different. And if you don't adjust, your marriage is gonna crumble. So it could even go for like, who's gonna be the breadwinner. Like, someone could tell you like, oh, you know, your wife shouldn't have to work. Well, that may not work for y'all. It's like, you have to be mature enough to realize, like, once you're actually in something day to day, you have to be flexible and then work towards what's gonna work out for the both of you, not just these ideas you created in your head about what a wife is. And it's unfortunate because I think Katina is really open to learning these things, wanting to do these things. Even when they had the chef do the whole little date scene, and he's like basically saying like, hey, you need to start cooking like this at home. It's like the audacity of you to expect that this woman is going to be creating this like head chef type
gourmet,
after she's been at work all day, which that's another
she
thing.
Has a real job.
Right.
It's
she
not
has
like
a legit profession, career.
It's not like she's sitting at home twiddling all day like, oh, what recipes can I make for dinner? And if that was her life, that's fine, but it's not. And it almost seemed like he was triggered by the fact that she was working from home that day, and when she got off, she elicited the help of her friends. It's like, why are you trying to use how she decided to host a party as if it represents who she is as a woman?
He said, my
housewarming. Thank you. I was like, oh my God, and you're drinking the LaCroix.
Right.
Oh yeah, I got a little bit left.
Pour it into your cup when it's empty.
Cheers to Lindsay.
I wrote that down. He said, she put effort into my housewarming.
He's not even paying rent at this place.
Sir.
Oh,
no,
gosh.
no, sir. No, sir. No.
It's like, and then it's almost like, does he really expect for things to be a team effort? I don't think so. I think that he's using the fact that he did mop that night. He did maybe help with the housewarming a little bit. But the vibe I'm getting is that he's looking for her to come in and take the lead on all the cooking, all the cleaning. Because she didn't do it on her own, he's stepping up. Obviously, he's an adult, he's having to do things, but I'm not getting the vibe that he's really looking for this like teamwork kind of energy or effort.
Agreed.
It's like he's doing it to hold himself over, because obviously you don't want to live maybe in filth, or like you have to eat something.
Sure. But she's not suggesting that they live in filth.
No,
right.
You know? Yeah,
but it must be something more than just, she's not putting enough effort. And it shows that he's not as flexible as maybe he thought that he was. I don't know. He's not flexible at all. Like there's more to this.
Agreed. He seems to me so after their conversation with Pastor Cal, when Pastor Cal was like, this is problematic right here. Yeah. And he poked at it, and Olajuwon was like, no, of course not. But he wasn't even listening to Pastor Cal at all. Right. When Pastor Cal was like, no, here's what it sounds like you're saying. And he was like, no. But had nothing to back that up. I really think that this is something that as an individual, it probably doesn't even matter who Olajuwon's partner is.
Yeah.
This is something that Olajuwon needs to work through personally on his own. Why you feel like your wife needs to do this, and that. So that conversation in the very beginning, when he was like, what does a wife mean to you? She should have been like, let me put down everything that I'm doing and say into your eyeballs with my chest, what does a wife mean to you, sir? Because you are in the Stone Age. You are the Flintstones. And talking about, she needs to cook and clean and blah, blah, blah. No, okay. So like, why? No, that's not what a wife means in 2022. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if your wife does that, there are plenty of women who are like, oh, I can't wait to cook and clean for my husband. Okay, cute.
Great.
But that should not be the reason why you do or do not love somebody. That should not be the reason why you are or are not married to somebody. What if Katina, heaven forbid, but what if Katina got sick? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And couldn't do any of those things. Would you then fall out of love with her?
Or are you going to be that husband that expects when she's like 9 months pregnant to still be up cooking, cleaning, doing the most? Right. And you're still not going to lift a finger.
He's got some stuff that he needs to work with. And for this couple specifically, I was like, where are the experts? Yes. We need them right now, because this is once I felt like this with Alyssa, I was like, they need to step in and have a one-on-one right now, because to see Katina cry at the end of the episode, when she had just said in the beginning of the episode, like why she doesn't cry, and to see her go back to the tears, I was like, no, sir.
Even in that moment where she's like, oh, this is why I don't cry. I wish he would have been like a little softer with her, because it
A
seemed
little
like,
softer.
yeah, he went into being like Coach Olajuwon from The Honeymoon, and he's just
Yeah.
like, oh, don't let anybody treat you like that. Don't let it. Okay, that's not what she needs right now. You know, I just need you to comfort her and let her know, hey, this is a safe space. You can actually cry. But of course, he can't do that because it's not a safe space. And I really hate it when he met with the guys and he's like, oh, I feel like I have to like tell her everything to do. This is not a child. Like, this woman has been surviving on her own, you know. Granted, the way she was doing it was, you know, going out to eat, but you have to meet her in the middle. You don't know it all, even though you think you do. You don't have it all together. So when he presents himself in this like puffed up way, I really just want her to come back and say, you're not all that. Like, we're working largely because of my patience with you.
Right.
We're working really because of my demeanor, because I choose not to like react in certain ways. That's why we're working right now. So you're not all you think you are, and the self-work that you feel like you did. Because he actually said, oh, you know, I feel like Katina did some work on herself as a woman, but she didn't really do work on herself enough to become a wife. And it's like, that work that she did on herself, you could use some, because you're not a man or a husband at this point.
No.
Just because you decided you wanted to be monogamous now,
right?
that means you're like husband of the year. What did y'all think about when they were having the conversation around like, do you think that you're falling in love? I'll say I really wasn't here for how he was like, well, I'll let you go first.
Yes.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that. And then even after she said what she said, the way that he was just like, oh, love, that's off the table. Like, his energy was all off and weird. I don't know if he had been drinking, smoking. His eyes were looking strange.
He did look strange.
Yeah.
He was all leaning over. His whole energy in that scene. And I felt for her because she was like really engaged.
Yeah.
Like leaning in, like all into the conversation.
And then you saw her shrink.
Yeah, she's just like, so I felt like he wanted her to go first for a reason.
Yeah, because he knew he was about to say some mess, just some foolishness. And also, checks notes. Maybe y'all are about to get some heat in these comments. Maybe part of this is because he has never dated Black women.
I think so too. I think so too. Yeah. Honestly, Katina isn't she's not even pushing back the way that I would want her to push back, honestly.
No, she's
at all.
Yeah. She seems way more understanding, I feel like, than me and all of my friends would ever be.
Me and my girlfriends are upset.
Way more patient. I also think too, so it sounds like he was an athlete, popular, those types of, especially when they've dated a bunch of different women, never really settled down with one. It's giving me, I'm used to women bending over backwards to fit the mold that I want.
Yes.
And Katina's like right in the middle, like, hey, I'm all in and I want to make this work, but I'm not going to be a noodle where you can just bend and flex me to that degree and control me. And I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's used to dating a different group of women. And I think he's used to women like fawning over him because of his physical appearance. He was an athlete, probably not really having to put much effort into getting women and keeping relationships. So now that he's with her, he's trying to like exert this level of control.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm thankful that she was open and true to herself.
Yeah.
But I think when she said to him, hey, I don't cry, the people in the comments not gonna like this either. I think he was really pushing her to get an emotional reaction. Because he was feeling some type of way that she didn't cry at the wedding. She didn't cry. It's almost like he was feeling some type of way that he's been more emotionally invested than she is. So he's like, hey, I'm going to take you down a few notches. Maybe I'm on a different planet. I don't know.
Nope. I agree with you.
I do.
I agree with you. And he strikes me. So again, these past couple of weeks have been very weird because when they were still on the honeymoon at the dinner with Alyssa and Chris, and he was like talking about Chris, and he was like, you know, how do you not see that this man has been trying with you? Like, and I was like, yes, yes. Okay. So I was team Olajuwon for a hot second.
Yes.
But now I'm like, he is giving me the exact same vibe that I get from Alyssa. And I just cannot be stopped from dragging her name into this. I know she's not even on the show anymore, but I am so deeply offended by her and everything that she represents that I can't help myself. But her shouting over and over, "Oh, I'm a good person. I'm a good person," is the same thing for me with Olajuwon. How he's like, "Oh, I've never had trouble with the ladies, and I'm this and that." Like, the more that you say it, it's kind of like, are you just trying to convince yourself?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that's what was going on with Alyssa. She was trying to convince herself that she's still a good person, which, so with Olajuwon, I feel like the more he says, like, this is who I am and this is what's right, it's like, dude, you're trying to convince yourself. This is not even about trying to convince Katina or the audience of this show.
You know what I wonder? Just because I think Katina came in with the right mindset for this show, like she's really trying to make things work. I wonder what it would be like if she were like matched up with a Michael, you know, like I wish, you know, like, because I think that would be a better dynamic than what she has to deal with now. Maybe a safer place for her. But Olajuwon kept throwing around this word support, like, oh, I want my wife to support me. I want my wife to support me. And I think she is supportive. And I think he needs to do a better job of articulating maybe what support means to him. Because like there's this couple I watch on YouTube, and I remember the guy saying, like, when they were in premarital counseling, he's like, you know, I love her, but if she could just be a little bit neater, you know, like that would be great. And the therapist says something like, listen, if she's not neat today,
she's
she
not
probably
gonna
won't be. Exactly. So I think he needs to understand, like, meet Katina where she is. She is supportive, but you also have to come off your high horse and understand.
Literally,
As a food blogger, like, she's not trying to cook in the kitchen. Like, she's trying to order chicken for a housewarming or delegate. I think that's a wonderful skill to say, hey, we need this for the housewarming. You guys are going to be out and on your way. You bring I think that's a perfect skill to have, as opposed to, I'm going to be here making every single thing and stressed out and I can't even have fun.
And what you're going to get? A pat on the back? Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, like, come on. And then it's like, at the end of the day, these things are icing on the cake, especially when you've gone through this process. If you never had any issues with the ladies, they were all lined up, you should not have signed up for this show. If cooking and basically aligning in terms of lifestyle, cooking, cleaning, whatever, domestic things, you should have sought out a person on your own. I think a show like this is good for maybe getting the core values right. But then that means you have to be flexible on a lot of other things. It's almost like Alyssa, I hate to bring her up, where she was so big on appearances. And it's like, okay, well, then you need to seek out your own partner so you can see them. Olajuwon, if cooking and cleaning and domestic things were such a big deal, either you should have drove that home with the experts. But see, he's smart. He knew if he went in to those pre-interviews talking like that, they would have been like, nope, that's not going to work. Even if they found a woman for him who was like, oh yeah, I want to be the B Smith. I want to cook and clean and do all these things. Women can change their minds. Okay. And life changes. So even if you found that woman, that doesn't mean that she's always going to be that way and have a desire to do those things. So you have to be flexible. So he's playing a bit of mind games. He knew not to mention it, and he really shouldn't have been on this show in the first place. He should have sought out that woman, which there are tons of women who may be okay with that dynamic and who would align with him in that way. But this wasn't the process to do it.
I'm so upset because I really was starting to like him. Like you could tell she was having conversations with him and he would adjust. So I really am disappointed. Like this is who we expected from the beginning. He took 3 weeks to get to it. But I think when he said, oh, you know, I want my wife to do these things, so I'm going to take her to this cooking class to show her that I'm putting in effort. I'm like, I don't think that's effort. Like, I don't think that's what it is, especially if you're going to come down on her about not having this basic adult skill that you don't even have. Like, okay, pot.
You know? Right. Hi, I'm Kettle. You're Black.
Goodness.
No.
Yeah.
Look, I just want to eat the food. If you're taking me to a restaurant, don't you ever have me show up there and then I have to put in work. Right? No, are you like, unless I specifically say, hey, I want to go to this baking class. Like, let me tell you, don't take me nowhere.
No thanks. No thanks.
Oh man.
I do think they will last. I feel like they might well, we'll see how next week goes, because I think Dr. Viv is doing visits. So
it's time. It's time.
I hope I want Dr. Pepper to do, because Dr. Pepper gets them together. Like last season, she told this guy, like, okay, I think you're a little bit abusive. Yeah. Okay. And we need to work on that. And he was. And now they're divorced, you know, so it's like I'm ready for Dr. Pepper. I really am.
Yes.
So based off of, I guess, the previews for next week. Based off the previews for next week, well, I guess we don't even have to factor that in. So up until this point, Mark and Lindsay have been intimate. Steve and Noy have been intimate.
Right.
The rest haven't.
Yeah.
To our knowledge.
And we're going to find out why Jasmine and Michael haven't.
Okay. MFOS, before we let you go, because we're already at time, but I have to know your opinion on this. Are you buying the reason that Olajuwon gave as to why he's holding back on being intimate with her?
No. Have you seen Katina?
Right.
She's a goddess. Okay. No, get out of here, Olajuwon.
I think it's more him. I mean, more her holding back.
Probably.
I don't. I think she would be down with the get down. But what I think, again, I think it tracks. I think it's completely Olajuwon, but I think it goes back to Alyssa saying she's a good person. We know she's not. I think him saying, I'm good with the ladies. Like, I'm nice.
Yeah. He can't even cuddle. So like, you're not even a good cuddler. So yeah.
All right. Who knows? I don't want to slander the man, but I'm just saying, like,
we shall see.
We shall see.
But thank you so much, MFOS, for joining us. I'm really glad that you came on. I really
am. Too. Thank you all for having me. I'm a big fan of your show.
Oh, thank you. All right, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.